All right, welcome back. Here we are once again, Joe Tilley along with Ross Granato with our playoff picks. And let's just start by reviewing our picks from earlier. I think we did all right, right? We picked the Oilers and we picked the Leafs to get through, and they certainly did. What were your thoughts after round one, Ross?
Yeah, I thought we did really good. I still think that the Leafs and Oilers are hopefully on track to meet in the finals. We discussed the Jets and they were able to pull off a crazy win last night, so we definitely did good there. And honestly, everything else from the first round I thought was very entertaining, and I enjoyed it all. It was good.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of great hockey, and we gave the Habs some props heading into their series with the Capitals, saying that they would have a shot, and they did have a shot. There are a couple overtime games in there that they could have gone their way, but overall, I think they can hold their heads high considering they're a young team with lots of future, right?
For sure, yeah. And I feel the same way about the Sens too. I think they showed really good fight against the Leafs. And honestly, that series could have gone a lot differently. There were a lot of overtime games. And I think the Sens honestly could have even had a chance to maybe upset the Leafs, but the Leafs got the job done in the end. So
Yeah, no question about it. When it was 3-0 Leafs, it easily could have been 2-1 Sens at that point with the way things were going. But yeah.
yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the second round, and first, what can you say about the Jets? I mean, that double overtime spectacular game. I mean, kept us all up into the wee hours and the eastern side of the country, and that was unbelievable. Hellebuck didn't let in a goal after the last 56 minutes of that game. And I thought Neil Pionk didn't get enough props, man. He was so solid in there, made some spectacular stick plays, blocks. He was all over the place. Brandon Tannen with a real nice block that hurt his hand there on the one play. But overall, I thought the team played extremely well. In a tough situation.
Yeah, they did, yeah. Like you said, Pionk, I think, had a very, very strong game. I'm pretty sure he assisted on three of the goals as well, so he was doing great on both ends. And like you said, Hellebuck, he really stepped up his game. He had a very rough series, to say the least, and I think he played really good at the end, and he helped his team pull through.
I know the Jets would like to rig it so they can play all their games at home in the next
Yeah,
round
yeah,
because 4-0 at home and 0-3 on the road. That's not too good. And Hellebuck was two different guys. He was two
yeah,
different guys,
yeah,
a different guy at home than he was away. But the bottom line is, for them to score, being down two goals with less than 2 minutes to play,
yeah.
and then getting the tying goal with 3 seconds left. Originally it was at 1.6, but 3 seconds to go. The latest goal ever to tie a game seven. It was unbelievable. Cole Perfetti with getting it done, but what a spectacular game. But I'm going to think that they're probably going to be a little bit tired now when round two gets underway against Dallas, and that's going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think that the series going to seven will have a major effect on them. But then again, Dallas's series they went to 7-2, and both series were very good. In the end, I do think if Dallas can get their star players back like Robertson and Heiskanen, I definitely think they'll have a much better chance. As of now, I would probably still take the Jets to beat Dallas. But if Dallas does get their star players back, I definitely think it'll be a lot closer, and Dallas could definitely come away with it.
Yeah, I think I might disagree with you on this one, but I'll tell you why. Dallas got this done against an extremely talented Colorado team, right? Without Jason Robertson,
Yeah.
and Mira Heiskanen, and having those guys coming back for round two, and apparently they will be back for round two, according to DeBoer. So that's a big ad for them. So um, you know, uh, missing Shifley, we don't know what his deal is, but he might not be back for the Jets. And then, who knows where Morrissey's at, how bad that injury was. But those are losing two key pieces like that. It's going to be really hard. And again, we've seen Connor Hellebuck be really good, and we've seen him be really bad. And I think when you're talking about a playoff game of this magnitude, a playoff series of this magnitude against a team like the Dallas Stars, who are such tremendous balance all the way up and down the lineup. On the veterans like Jamie Benn and guys who've been around the block a few times. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to to handle a team like that. And I think I'm seeing this one going 6 or 7 games, but I'm gonna give them the Dallas a nod on that one. So okay, the Edmonton Oilers, what a I mean, really, when you consider how bad their goaltending's been, to be to getting through that first round against the Kings, a lot of things went their way. A couple of bounces went their way in games that looked like they were going to lose, but again, a team that I think that did rise to the occasion when they had to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 4 straight years now of Oilers versus Kings, and the Oilers have won every single year, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, like you said, I mean, considering all factors that the Oilers had against them, like, having their best defensive defenseman out, and their goalie is not performing, it's amazing that they were still able to come away with the win against the Kings. And I think that, if they can get Ekholm back in round two, and if they're able to, whether it's Pickard or Skinner, if one of them can just find their game, I think that they definitely have another solid route towards the finals again. So I think if everything falls into place, they can continue their run, and hopefully they do, because like I said, I would like to see them in the finals.
Oh yeah, me as well, and we both predicted that they would get there, in our last series preview, in our last preview, and I'm not going to change my mind with that one,
Yeah,
even though the goaltending has been scary. I mean, I don't think that they can get it done with Calvin Pickard. I really don't. But you brought up the point of Ekholm coming back, and the word was all the way through that Ekholm would be ready for round two. So sometime in this series, we're going to see the Oilers getting their best defenseman back, and that's going to make a difference, and probably helps on the defensive end as well. Making Pickard or Skinner, whoever happens to be in goal at the time. But I'm going to guess that the Oilers. I think in order for them to make it, and I think they will. I think Skinner has to pick up his game, and I believe he will. I think
definitely.
at the end of the day, Calvin Pickard, I don't think is going to be your winning netminder in a Stanley Cup final. I just don't think he's there right now, anyway. And I think, but I think Skinner could do it. I mean, he did it last year. He got them to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. But what a great matchup! McDavid against Eichel. Aiden Hill, hell of a goaltender. Between the pipes for Vegas. They get that solid defensive core, but can they handle all that Oilers firepower? And I don't think they can. I just don't think, I think ultimately that's what happened to LA, one who many thought was the best defensive team in the league, probably showed that through the regular season. But against all that wave of McDavid, and Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins and all these guys who have speed, and Hyman, guys who crash the net, and guys who create trouble. Yeah, it's a lot to handle, and I just don't think I don't think the Knights can handle that, and I think the Oilers are going to prevail in six games.
Yeah, I mean, you can only do so much to stop the best player in the world, and the fact that they have like Draisaitl too, it takes a lot to stop them. And like you said, like the Kings are a very strong defensive team. They have Kopitar and Philip Deneau, who are both two guys that you could easily match up against any team's top two centers, and they still couldn't do their best to stop McDavid and Draisaitl. So I definitely think it'll be a challenge for Vegas. But their Vegas is a very deep team too. So I believe that they might be able to. I still would like to see Edmonton win regardless. But still, Vegas is a very deep team, and they've won a cup and they have the experience, so it'll definitely be interesting for sure.
We'll see how it goes. It's going to be fun. And another fun series. Okay, the Leafs facing the most physical presence in the NHL. They're pals from Florida, the defending Stanley Cup champs who have knocked them out before. And it's, they've got that little bit of history between them. Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart, Brad Marchand all coming at you. That's a lot to take in. And some big dudes on the back end, Seth Jones, Aaron Ekblad. They've got, of course, Sergei Bobrovsky, who is probably, right now would get the nod. Probably is the most savvy playoff goaltender out there. But
Mhm.
so they bring a lot to the table. But this is a different Leafs team than we've seen before. This is the best defense that I've seen the Leafs have since, I don't know, back to the probably 1960s.
Yeah.
It's been, comparatively speaking to the rest of the NHL, I don't remember seeing an NHL, a Leafs team with this much, you know, uh, potential or with this much ability on defense.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a huge challenge. The one thing that I didn't like about the Leafs round one series against Ottawa is that I think that series probably should have been done in four, maybe five games, and it did go to six. And I think that, if they struggled to put away a team like the Sens, I worry a bit about Florida. Not to the same extent because Florida's a much different team, and I definitely think it'll be more of a back and forth series rather than one team going up, 3-0 or 2-0, whatever it may be. But Florida's just an all-around stronger team, and I definitely think that, like you said, the Leafs' defensive presence is much bigger than it was last time we played Florida. And I think that that could definitely be a difference maker, and as well as Stolarz too. He's been unreal, and I definitely think he'll have to stay on his A game if they want to have a chance against a strong team like Florida.
Yeah, I don't think they've gone into the playoffs with this type of goaltending either. You
Yeah,
bring Stollers and even having Joseph Wall as a real competent backup. And if you want to go deep, you got Martin Jones or like me. You got some depth there, but you got really tough series here against Florida, and we know it's going to be tough. Um, this is a team that has caved before, in these tough circumstances. It just doesn't feel like it's the same team. And I'll tell you the two biggest changes for the Leafs from say last year to this year. One is the coach Craig Berube. He's a guy who's won the Stanley Cup. He knows what it takes to be there. And Chris Tanev, who is such a solid presence back there. I've never felt so comfortable with the Leafs defenseman on the ice in the late going as I have when I see Tanev out there because he blocks everything. He leads the league in shot blocks. I mean,
yeah,
he's one of a kind, and I think he's given the Leafs a different dynamic. But OEL too, the former Panther, he's a great addition as well. And Jake McCabe is really growing into that role nicely. Morgan Riley can, if he can add a little bit more offensively into this series, that'll be a really good for the Leafs. But I think a lot depends. Like this team, I believe they like each other. I believe these, especially when you talk about the core four, you talk about the main players and the main cogs in this wheel. They tend to they like each other. They want to stay together. Mitch Marner's coming up on a contract, in the off season, and if he wants to stick around, they need to go deep into the playoffs. And I think another round would pretty much seal the deal. And I think they're going to get it done. I think they're going to find a way. Florida not having Ekblad for that first game.
mhm.
If the Leafs can jump on that, take advantage of that. Be a team that jumps onto that first 1-0 lead, gains a little bit of momentum. Maybe takes both games at home. Maybe maybe even steals one in Florida. Then you're talking about in being in control of the series, and I think I kind of predicting that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very high energy series, and I think that ultimately the team that's going to come away with the series win will be whichever team is able to create more of that energy and more of that momentum. And like you said, if I was the Leafs, I'm going to look to guys like Chris Tanev to create that energy, whether it's a huge block or if it's Matthew Knies making a hit or scoring a goal or like someone on the fourth line just creating a chance or anything like that, just something to like spark the energy and give the team what it needs, the momentum, whatever it may be to just make that push. And another good point is, like you said, Ekblad's gone for game one, and there's a good debate. He's probably their best defenseman, and if they can jump all over that and take the 1-0 series lead, I think that's a very big thing, and they need to do that. They definitely do.
Yeah, and like this is a different team too in terms of you know I like the additions at the deadline.
Yeah.
I really do, and I think that Scott Lawton is to me he's gotten progressively better and
Hmm.
he's a shutdown guy that they haven't had before too. And I think it gives him that it gives the club that little bit of a defensive presence that they didn't before. And I really want to see this guy on the ice with a minute to go in the in the game. I want to
Yeah.
see Lawton out there because he's getting in front of pucks. He's getting in, he's poke checking guys. He's getting the puck. He's still doing like he had a great steal on the Nylander goal that iced it. And he's a guy who gets stuff done. So when it really counts. So I think that's a factor for the Leafs. So anyway, I'm seeing the Leafs taking it in 6 or 7. What are you saying?
Um, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna say Leafs in seven. I just because I think it's gonna be a very back and forth series, and I don't think either team is gonna have a cakewalk with this one. So I'll say Leafs in seven.
Okay, we're in agreement. Now, the lone series without a Canadian team involved, I think this is pretty much a coin toss between Carolina and Washington. Ovi and Tom Wilson, they're both, these are next level guys, obviously. Freddie Anderson has been excellent for the Canes, but, I pretty much toss a coin here. I think I'm going to go with Carolina in 7.
Yeah, I would honestly probably have to say Carolina as well. Just because of their more recent playoff success over Washington. Carolina, they always seem to make not the deepest of runs, but they're always usually at least second or third round. And I think if they can, finally get over that hump of whether it's the conference finals or semifinals, whatever it may be, I definitely think that they could be a strong enough team to contend for the cup. But then again, they have to get through teams like Washington first, and that could be a struggle for them. But I still think Carolina could take this one. I believe they have the best coach in the NHL, so I'm gonna go with Carolina in six.
All right, so we're both calling for a Leafs Carolina final. That will be
Yeah.
interesting. There's something else, something about Rod Brindamore,
Yeah.
his calmness, his coolness, his behind the bench there that makes me think that Carolina might just be the team to get this thing done.
Yeah.
All right, well there we go. Let's find out what happens, and let's come back and do this again for the conference finals.
Sounds good.
All right, Joe Tilley and Ross Granato. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.